As soon as I got into the hobby of watch collecting, I recognized Rolex as a brand that I personally aspired to. I told myself that when I get a Rolex, I've officially made it as a serious watch collector. That is the aura that Rolex carries as a brand, and I think many people would agree and view them with that level of prestige. But to go along with that, there can sometimes be an undeserved level of admiration that we as watch collectors have for Rolex as a brand. Many watch enthusiasts, including myself, these days actually think Rolex is overrated, and that's precisely what I want to talk about in today's video. I want to share with you why I personally think Rolex is overrated as a brand. Before I get into my critiques, I do want to give Rolex credit where credit is due, because their admiration and level of prestige has not come out of nowhere, and it's been truly earned over many decades. Rolex has been making serious tool watches since the early 20th century, and one of the early achievements of the brand was the Oyster case, which was the first ever waterproof watch case. In the early 1950s, Rolex began to take shape a little bit closer to the brand that we recognize today, introducing the Rolex Submariner and the Explorer in 1953. In addition to their amazing achievements in terms of true specification, their branding is truly unmatched, and we have to give respect where it is earned as well, because if you walked up to someone on the street and told them to name a watch brand, chances are they're probably going to say Rolex. And the watches themselves are truly high quality. Rolex is a luxury brand, and they certainly deliver watches in the luxury space like no other. And really no one is going to question Rolex in terms of their actual quality. Their movements are great, they're very robust, they have a great service network to go along with it. Their bracelets are known to be extremely solid, the overall construction is very solid, and there's really not a whole lot to complain about if you own a Rolex watch. But like I just said, there's not much to complain about when you actually own that Rolex watch. It is a pretty big hassle to actually acquire that Rolex watch in the first place, but we'll get to that in a second. Nonetheless, like I said, I have to give Rolex the respect that it truly deserves, and I want to recognize that here in this video. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the high resale value of most Rolex watches, and that's important to bring up because that is a common point that Rolex defenders will bring up. Rolex watches hold their value almost better than any other brand, maybe barring a few exceptions at the top ladder of the horology game. And I think that has to be recognized as well. More times than not, when buying a Rolex at retail, you can walk out the door, immediately try to sell your watch on the secondhand market and make money immediately, which is a very rare experience for the watch world. And it's kind of hard to argue against a watch selling at an increased price point if people are willing to pay that price. At the end of the day, things are worth what people are willing to pay, and if a Rolex watch sells for 2x the retail price or whatever it is, then I guess that's just what the price truly is on the open market. I do think it's important to acknowledge that not every single Rolex watch is going to sell for way over the sticker price on the secondhand market. Watches like the Rolex Explorer and Datejust will consistently sell for about retail or maybe just a little bit over. And again, watches are worth what people are willing to pay for them. So if you're someone out there saying that Rolex can't be overrated because of their increased prices on the secondhand market, well, you got a pretty good point. But that does really bring me to the first reason why I think Rolex is overrated as a brand, and that is the overall value for money that you get. Now again, like I said just a moment ago, watches are worth what people are willing to pay. And on top of that, Rolex watches are extremely high quality. But that all being said, you don't need to pay Rolex aftermarket prices or even Rolex retail prices to get Rolex quality. And I really don't think that is much of a controversial statement. I'll use my own personal Rolex Explorer reference 124270 as a case study here. Now, when we take a look at this watch, it is extremely well built. It has all the things you'd want in a watch to wear every single day. A really solid case, a solid bracelet with a pretty good on-the-fly adjustment system, screw-down crown, really high quality, great looking dial with white gold indices. I mean, it is a great watch, that's for sure. But did I really just share any specifications about the watch that you can't find in a similarly priced watch that's much more easy to obtain? I mean, what about the Rolex Explorer can't be found in a watch like the Omega Aquaterra or an IWC Pilot watch or any other watch, again, that is a true competitor to the Rolex Explorer? And you can extrapolate that to any watch from Rolex and any of that watch's natural competitors in the luxury space. There are so many pieces out there that are the same price as a Rolex watch or cheaper that might have better features like a better on-the-fly adjustment system or a more reliable movement. And that's another decent point to bring up. Rolex watches are not perfect. There's been reported issues with the 32 series of movements from Rolex, and I don't mean to just nitpick one particular movement in one particular issue, but it's not like you're getting perfection for the dollars you're spending. Just a moment ago, I implied that you can get better stats and specifications, such as a better on-the-fly adjustment system, for a cheaper price than a Rolex. Now, this is a bit anecdotal, but Zenith, which is a competitor to Rolex and many other watches being cheaper than Rolex, just came out with a new on-the-fly adjustment system that allows you to adjust the watch while it's on your wrist, which is something you cannot do with a Rolex watch. Now again, I totally recognize that is a very hyper-specific example to bring up here, but again, I think the point still stands that you can get very similar quality to Rolex watches and sometimes even superior quality and machining and engineering at a similar or cheaper price. Just because someone's willing to pay 2x over the sticker price for a Rolex doesn't mean that watch is actually worth the money in terms of true value for money and specifications that you're getting. And the second reason why I think Rolex is overrated as a brand is of course because of the authorized dealer buying experience. Walk into a Rolex authorized dealer today and try to buy their most iconic watch, the Rolex Submariner. You can't do it, it's actually near impossible. Realistically speaking, to get that Rolex Submariner at retail, you're gonna have to build up a multiple year history of buying watches you don't really want, or maybe even jewelry you don't want, just to have the opportunity to spend $10,000 on a watch. Now, whatever you think about Rolex and the authorized dealer buying experience, which everyone is entitled to their opinion, I think we all can agree that that isn't very fun. If you want something and you have the money for it, generally speaking, you'd like to have it, especially with watches that we're talking about here that are not limited edition. These are not pieces that are theoretically actually scarce. They're making plenty of them, and I think most people should be able to buy one. It's that artificial scarcity that I think really bothers a lot of watch collectors and something I'm personally not a huge fan of. And I think it's only right that I compare the Rolex authorized dealer buying experience to other brands out there. And let's just be honest, it's completely different. If you walk into an Omega boutique or look for an IWC or a Grand Seiko, whatever watch you want, chances are you probably can get it at retail without any major issue. And you probably could convince me that Rolex having a lengthy waiting list for their watches is not actually a bad thing. At the end of the day, a lot of people want their watches, so what's the problem with having a system in place to determine who should get them at what time? But again, the real topic of discussion here is whether Rolex watches are overrated. And I personally feel like they are truly overrated because they are not a brand that deserves people waiting years and years to get their watches. So let me bring this all together because I want to be fair to both sides. Rolex does deserve its reputation. Their history is real and they make outstanding watches. And if you're someone out there that owns a Rolex watch, you have a piece that holds its value in a way that no other brand does. Those are simply the facts about the brand and I cannot ignore that. But on the other side of the coin, the Rolex buying experience is truly broken. And if you're trying to buy a Rolex watch today at retail, it's almost impossible. And if you're buying one on the secondhand market, you're likely paying a huge brand tax. And you're getting a watch that does offer great quality, but it's not offering great value. At the end of the day, if you want a Rolex watch, I encourage you to try to get one. That's what I did and I don't regret it. But I encourage you to go into the purchase with an open mind, because if you start exploring other watches that offer great value like Omega, Grand Seiko, IWC, and more, you might just find that they offer a better watch for your circumstances. That being said, I am very curious to see what you guys have to say about this in the comment section down below. At the end of the day, Rolex is really the king of the watch industry in many ways, and so a lot of people have many different opinions on the brand. So let me know what you have to say in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you can give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.